I'm Nora, and this is the part of my life that began on a night when Chicago felt like a quiet room. I had stayed late at the community college where I teach art, grading sketches, and sipping weak coffee. The air outside was sharp and dry, and the sky was a flat gray lid over the city. I remember thinking about leftover soup and a hot bath. I remember thinking my little blue house on Palmer Street would smell like lemon cleaner and paint, the two scents that always mean home to me. I did not know I was walking into a broken truth. The first thing that struck me when I opened the door was the wrong kind of silence. My house has its own sounds, the hum of the old fridge, a faint hiss from the radiator, a floorboard that complains near the hall. That night the silence felt staged, like a set before actors step out. I set my keys in the bowl by the door and heard a whisper, then the soft clink of a glass. It came from the kitchen. For 1 second, I thought I had left the radio on. Then I caught a laugh. It was my sister's laugh. Lily's voice curled through the hallway like perfume. I followed it, moving slow because I already knew and did not want to know. The kitchen light was on, bright and ordinary, the kind of light meant for late-night toast and a glass of milk. Mark stood by the sink, his back stiff, like a child who has been caught stealing cookies. Lily sat on the counter, swinging her feet, a move she had done since we were kids. Their faces shifted when they saw me. First surprise, then a flurry of looks I had never seen on them before, like masks being tried on too fast. People think storms are loud. Sometimes they are quiet. I did not scream. I did not drop the tote bag from my shoulder. I did not ask foolish questions I already had answers to. I looked at the two people who shared my blood and my bed and felt something thin inside me snap. It was not my heart. My heart kept working. It was a belief. It was the small faith I had placed in them to be decent when I was not looking. I told them both to leave. I said it twice, once like a teacher, once like a woman whose house is still her own. Mark tried to make a story of it, the kind a husband tells to make himself look like he floated into a mistake on a soft river. He said he had been lonely, as if loneliness were a storm that carried him upstairs. Lily put on tears the way she puts on lipstick, quickly, with a mirror for effect. The tears did not move me. I pointed to the door. I told them I would call a lawyer in the morning. I said I would change the locks by night. I said this kitchen would never again be a stage for them. After they were gone, the silence turned honest. I washed the 2 wine glasses they left in the sink and set them on a towel to dry. My hands shook, so I counted cups and plates like they were votes for what still belonged to me. The numbers were plain and kind. The fridge hummed. The radiator hissed. I took out a notebook and wrote down the steps I would take. Call Carla, the lawyer my friend Mia had used, move money into my own account, pack a suitcase, sleep at Mia's for a few nights. I wrote the plan like a recipe. It steadied me. Before I locked the door, I looked at the small oil painting above the table, my own work, a study of the river in winter. The blue was deep and calm, even with ice on the edges. I touched the frame and said out loud, I am still here. Then I turned off the kitchen light, took my tote and my keys, and walked into the cold, where the city felt hard but honest. I chose myself, and the choice was simple like a door, and heavy like one, too. I closed it behind me and heard it latch. I woke at Mia's apartment to the smell of coffee and the sound of the city waking up. Chicago traffic hummed like a low drum under the window. I took a deep breath, sat up on her pull-out couch, and opened my notebook to the list I had written the night before. First task, call Carla. I dialed her office as the clock hit 8. She answered on the second ring, her voice brisk and calm. I told her everything in one clean line, Mark, Lily, the kitchen, the end. She said, come in at 10. Bring your marriage papers, your bank statements, and a clear head. I showered, pinned back my hair, and put on a navy sweater that felt like armor. Carla's office stood in a tall brick building with a view of the river. She wore a gray suit and a soft smile that did not ask for tears. We went through the steps. She explained the filing fee, $3.37, and the retainer, $5,000. I paid the retainer from my savings and signed my name more times than I had ever signed it in one day. We'll ask to sell the house and split the equity, she said. We'll request a fair split of the accounts. We'll keep this simple. The word simple felt like a clean room. She told me to change the locks that afternoon and to move my favorite things out first. Photographs, your art, any files. Don't wait. Back at the Blue House on Palmer Street, a locksmith named Daniel met me at the door. He worked fast and left 3 new keys on the counter. I walked through each room slowly, naming what was mine like a quiet prayer. The small oil painting over the table, the box of sketchbooks, the photo of me and Mia at the lake, the mug with a chip on the rim. I packed 2 suitcases and a crate of art supplies, then stood in the doorway of the bedroom that had been ours. The air felt stale. I opened a window and let cold air sweep the sheets. This is a house, I told myself. It is not a life. The first court date came 2 weeks later. Mark showed up in a wrinkled suit, his tie loose, his eyes darting to everyone but me. His lawyer talked about misunderstandings and emotions. Carla talked about facts, dates, payments, the mortgage we both signed. We laid out the numbers. The judge set terms. List the house within 30 days, split the sale 50-50 after fees, close joint accounts, and move on. Mark frowned like a boy told no. I kept my face still. After the hearing, he tried to walk beside me in the hallway. Nora, we can fix this, he said, his voice low. We can't, I said. We already did the breaking. Family trouble came next, like a second storm after the first. My phone buzzed with group messages from New York relatives and from our parents in Ohio. My mother wrote, "This is a private matter. Don't make it public." My father wrote, "Forgive and keep the family whole." No one used the word cheating. No one asked if I was safe. I sent one reply to the group. I am going no contact for my health. Do not call me. Then I blocked numbers. The silence that followed felt like a clear field after a long fire. Not pretty, but ready for new growth. I needed a place that was mine, not a borrowed couch, and not the Blue House filled with old noise. I found a small rental in Portland, Oregon, a 1-bedroom with a lemon tree out back and a sunny front room where a desk could live by the window. The rent was $1,450 a month. I signed the lease and wired the deposit. First month, last month, and a $500 security fee. I told Carla my new address and hired a mover named Paul to take my boxes across the country for $2,100. I flew west with 2 bags and the keys to a life that would be quiet on purpose. In Portland, I set up a second-hand desk I bought for $40 and opened an online shop for my sketches. The first week, a buyer in Boston paid $180 for a charcoal drawing of the river in winter. The next month, a woman in London sent £950 for a set of city studies. The money did not fix the ache, but it gave me proof. I could make something people wanted, and I could support myself with my hands. Each sale felt like a small light turning on in a long hallway. I kept the light steady. I paid bills on time, saved what I could, and took long walks under tall trees until my breath matched my steps again. When the house in Chicago sold, the title company sent me my share, $62,300 after the mortgage and fees. I cried when I saw the wire hit my account. Not because of the dollars, though the dollars mattered, but because it was the last tether cut clean. I sent Mia $300 for the weeks I'd stayed, even though she waved me off. She took it only when I said, "Let me thank you," in cash. That night, I cooked soup in my own kitchen, set one plate at one place, and ate with the window open to the sound of a new city. I was alone, but not lonely. I was home. I had been in Portland for 3 years when the letter found me. By then, my small house felt like a person I trusted, sturdy, square-shouldered, lemon tree nodding in the yard. I taught 2 mornings a week at the community center and spent the rest of my time at my desk, sketching bridges, porches, and cloudy rivers. Orders trickled through my online shop like steady rain. A bookstore in Denver sent $600 for a series of city doors. A hotel in Savannah wired $1,200 for 5 prints. A gallery in London paid £1,400 for a winter study of Chicago that made me cry to pack. I ran by the river most evenings, waved to my neighbor James when he burned his dinner again, and went to bed early with my phone on silent. The envelope was thin and official, postmarked Boston. I stood at the kitchen counter and read it twice. The hospital language was careful. My sister, Lily, had been admitted after a car crash. She was stable. She had asked for me. There was no mention of Mark. There was no mention of my parents. I put the letter down and felt the room tilt, not from shock but from the weight of a choice I had promised I would make only for myself. I made tea. I washed the cup. I walked out to the lemon tree and held a leaf between my fingers until the world steadied. Then I opened my notebook and wrote one line. I choose with a clear head. I used my travel fund and booked a last-minute ticket for $420, Portland to Boston with a layover in New York. I texted Mia, going east. I'll call when I land. She wrote back at once. I love you. You owe them nothing. You owe yourself the truth. On the plane, I stared at the seatback map and watched the little plane slide over the United States of America, the country where I had built, broken, and rebuilt. I thought of Carla's calm voice in court, of James bringing me a toolbox when my sink leaked, of the first 200 pounds that ever hit my account from a buyer in Europe who believed in my hands. I touched the edge of my boarding pass and said to myself, you are not going for the past. You're going for your own peace. The hospital was all white and beeps. Lily lay in a room that looked like every hospital room I've ever seen. A window with a modest view, a chair that pretends to be a bed, a little table that rolls. She looked younger without mascara, older with pain. Nora, she said, and the word was a weak light in her mouth. She told me what she could. She said she had left Mark a year after I did, that the gamble of his promises cost her savings and friends. She said she had tried to call me once, then remembered the wall I had built and hung up. I was wrong, she whispered, about many things. I did not reach for her hand. I kept my palms flat on my knees. I'm here, I said. I will listen. That is what I can give. When they released her, I used my card to book a quiet hotel 2 blocks from the river, $600 for 2 nights, a room with 2 twin beds, and a lamp that made a soft circle on the table. I set rules while we unpacked our small bags. No blame, I said. No asking for money. No plans that make me smaller. She nodded, and for once she did not argue. We walked by the water and talked like careful hikers on a narrow path, watching where we put our feet. The next morning, my parents called from New York. They had heard I was in Boston and wanted to meet. I chose a busy coffee shop with big windows and sat up straight. My mother tried the old line, we just want the family together, and my father stared at the foam on his latte like it could spell an answer. I told them my terms as if I were describing a drawing, clean lines, open space, no secret rooms. You may be in my life if you come with truth and respect, I said. I will not pay to keep any peace that costs me myself. I stood, left $10 under my cup, and walked out into a bright, cold day that felt like air after rain. I flew back to Portland with a feeling like a new roof over an old house, still my house, but stronger against rain. The lemon tree nodded at me when I rolled my suitcase up the walk, and I laughed alone on the porch like a person who has kept a quiet promise. Inside, everything was where I left it. The chipped mug, the blue oil study above the table, the desk by the sunny window. I paid the last hotel charge from Boston, $1, $200 in all, and opened my ledger. The numbers told a clean story, savings holding steady, bills paid on time, a cushion for bad weather. I sent Mia a photo of the tree and typed, home. She called and said, that word fits you again, Nora. The first week back, an email waited from a development firm in Chicago. A project manager named Elena had seen my river drawings and wanted a set of murals for a lobby on the near north side, for panels, seasons across the water. The offer was $12,000 with half up front. I thought of the winter study that once made me cry, and I said yes. I bought new brushes for $85, a roll of primed canvas for $260, and reordered prints that always sell well in America, bridges and porches and alleys with stubborn light. A bookstore in Denver paid $400 for fresh stock. A hotel in Savannah sent $900 for a coastal series. A gallery in New York commissioned a skyline in graphite for $1,100. A buyer in Europe surprised me with £1,500 for a set of small nocturnes, and I packed them carefully, as if they were small hearts traveling. Lily called from Boston a week later. She sounded careful, like a person walking across a frozen pond. "I'm going to support group," she said. "I found a steady job at a bakery. It's not a lot, but it's mine." She did not ask for money. She did not try to rewrite the past. I told her I wished her well, and I meant it. We kept it plain, short calls, honest lines. When she slipped and started to apologize for the same old wound, I said, "We can speak about today." She understood. Boundaries, it turns out, are simply doors that you learn to use. My parents took longer. My mother sent a card from New York at Easter with a photo of a tulip garden and the words, "Thinking of you." My father followed with a message about the Yankees and weather. None of it touched the center, but it didn't scratch it either. I wrote back one letter, 3 paragraphs, simple as a contract. I said I was well in Portland, that my house was my peace, that my door was open to truth and respect. I enclosed a snapshot of the lemon tree and a copy of the mural sketch. I did not enclose my phone number. Some reconciliations are like winter sunsets, pretty at a distance, cold up close. The murals filled my spring. I woke early, ran by the river, and worked until the light tipped soft on the floorboards. James came by with a drill when my curtain rod sagged and stayed for dinner, carrying in a grocery bag like a small flag of friendship. We argued about baseball, teased each other about terrible playlists, and split the check when we went out, trading friendly vows to do it again. When I invoiced the final mural payment and the $6,000 cleared, I stood in my kitchen and felt something I had not felt since long before the blue house on Palmer Street, safety that didn't need an audience. In July, I took a slow train down the coast to visit Mia in San Francisco. We walked steep streets and bought sandwiches and talked about money and love without flinching. "What would you tell the Nora from 4 years ago?" Mia asked as we sat on a bench with gulls hopping at our feet. I thought about it while counting the bills in my pocket, $1.47 after lunch, the exact shape of an ordinary day. "I'd say you survived the fire," I told her. "And then you learn which wood to build with." On the ride back, I wrote a list in my notebook. Keep the house, keep the work, keep the boundaries, keep the people who add light. I drew a small square, a floor plan of the life I choose. Now, when I tell this part, I always name what saved me. A small house in America with a lemon tree, a lawyer named Carla who spoke in clear numbers, a friend named Mia who left her door open, neighbors like James who show up with tools and jokes, buyers in New York and Denver and Savannah and sometimes Europe who believe in the work of my hands. I do not name Mark beyond the sentence, because the story is not about him. It is about the price of peace and the profit of choosing yourself. I paid in dollars and in days, in tears and in fresh paint. The return keeps coming, a deposit of quiet, a wire of joy, the steady interest of a life that finally matches my name.